Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Okay, so we all knew that he was goofy, but we just didn't realize how goofy Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is. The governor is getting some backlash over his remarks on Labor Day, making fun of watching for news on President Trump's death, suggesting he is disappointed when Trump has lived for another day. Federal officials have just intercepted what they're calling the largest bust ever of drug chemicals headed straight from communist China to the cartels in Mexico, with the ultimate destination of a city street near you. If you don't believe America is under attack with illegal drugs, this should be the proof you need. Would it concern you to know that your insurance company is flying a drone over your house to do an aerial inspection that could lead to your homeowner's insurance being canceled? Is this an invasion of privacy of insurance companies? Or is it their right as the insurer of your home? We're going to dive into this today. And should South Carolina election officials turn over the state's voter data to the U.S. government? That's the question that a federal judge has been asked by a registered South Carolina voter in an effort to block this exchange of information. It's a good question. Are you okay with your voter information being passed on to federal officials?
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
All right, folks, I want you to imagine something for just a moment. Imagine if a Republican governor, let's say Ron DeSantis or Kristi Noem or South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, stood up at a Labor Day picnic and cracked a joke about Joe Biden dropping dead. Do you think the media would laugh it off? Or do you think CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times would run wall-to-wall coverage accusing Republicans of inciting violence and undermining democracy? Which do you think how do you think they would react? Of course, we all know that answer, don't we? But this week, Minnesota's Democrat governor, Tim Walz, who, of course, ran as part of the Kamala Harris ticket. And again, we knew he was goofy out on the campaign trail. We just didn't realize just how goofy he is. He thought it was perfectly fine to stand up in front of a crowd and riff about waking up, scrolling social media, and maybe, just maybe, seeing news about President Donald Trump's health. Here's what he said.
Thank you for believing in these times, because look, I get it. You get up in the morning and you doom scroll through things, and although I will say this, the last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. Just saying. There will be news sometime, just so you know, there will be news.
Oh, isn't he funny? And what news do you think he was referencing? The disgusting online conspiracy theories last weekend that claimed that President Donald Trump had died? The sitting governor of Minnesota, the same man, again, who was Kamala Harris's running mate just a few months ago, played it for laughs that Trump might be dead. And the backlash has been fierce, and rightfully so. It should have been. House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, a Republican from Walz's own state, blasted him on X, saying, "Mocking President Trump's health is a new low even for you. Wishing ill on others doesn't make you a leader. It makes you small. Minnesotans deserve better." And he's right. Journalist Celino Zito called Walz's comments vile and pointed out that Democrats still haven't learned anything from years of violent rhetoric and division that they sow. Conservative influencers called him sick, a monster, a deranged freak. And let's be honest, you don't have to be a Trump fan to realize this was across the line. This was beyond pale. We're not talking about a Twitter troll in someone's basement. This is a sitting governor, a man who tried to become vice president of the United States, standing in front of families on Labor Day weekend and essentially joking about the death of the president of the United States, a man who, by the way, has already survived 2 assassination attempts. And this from the same Democrat Party that lectures the rest of us daily about toning down the rhetoric. But should we really be surprised? Because this is the same Tim Walz who last year urged Democrats to bully the S out of Trump to be a little meaner. This is a pattern of behavior. He wants to play the tough guy. Walz isn't just disagreeing with Trump on policy. He's dehumanizing him. He's encouraging his supporters to treat Trump not as a political opponent, but as an enemy to be mocked, bullied, destroyed, maybe even worse. And here's the kicker. Walz's state of Minnesota just endured one of the most horrific tragedies imaginable, a school shooting inside a Catholic church where 2 children were killed. Families are grieving. A community is shattered. Kids are terrified to go back to school. And what's the governor joking about? The president's health. The president possibly not waking up in the morning. It's just simply tone deaf. It's cruel. It's mean. It tells you everything you need to know about where the Democrat Party's head is right now. Now, to his credit, President Trump addressed the rumors with his usual bluntness. Standing in the Oval Office, he said, "I didn't do anything for 2 days, and they said there must be something wrong with me. It's fake news." Trump said he's very active over the Labor Day weekend. Of course, we kind of settled all that in our discussion yesterday. He played golf. I mean, it's classic Trump turning the smear back on its head, making it clear that rumors of his demise were greatly exaggerated. But let's talk about the double standard here, though. If Republicans had said anything like this back during the Joe Biden days, Democrats would call it terrorism. They'd say it was incitement. They'd say Republicans were encouraging unstable people to act violently. They would say that it was reckless, and it is. But when Tim Walz, one of their own, does it, when he riffs on rumors about Trump's death, the media just chuckles. They call it edgy. They downplay it as a joke. Oh, he was just trying to get a laugh, just making fun. This is why conservatives don't trust the press. This is why ordinary Americans roll their eyes when CNN talks about protecting democracy, because it's never about protecting democracy. It's always about protecting Democrats, right? So here's the bottom line. Tim Walz crossed a line, a serious one. You agree? Love to get your feedback. You can text me. You can email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. You can leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. By the way, I always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com and get the very best possible deal on everything that Mike Lindell has to offer. He has a great deal right now going on with the standard MyPillows. Just $19.98 for a standard MyPillow when you use promo code Joey. Gets even better. For a limited time, they're also offering their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Queen size MyPillows, $24.98. Upgrade to a king size for only $29.98. Get the body pillows for $39.98 and multi-use pillows for only $12.98. So go to MyPillow.com. You can also call 800-893-4059. But again, you always need to use promo code Joey in order to take full advantage of the very best prices. And by the way, to take advantage of wholesale pricing, receive $100 in free digital gifts. Just place an order of $75 or more. And get your standard MyPillow for only $19.98. Go to MyPillow.com. Use promo code Joey. So back to whether or not Tim Walz stepped over the line, though. I'd love to get your feedback on this one. Are we just maybe overreacting a bit? Or was this really crossing the line? Is it crossing the line for a Democrat governor like Tim Walz to joke about whether or not the president woke up? And kind of sounding hopeful that maybe he wouldn't wake up one morning. He owes President Trump and the American people an apology, I think, because mocking the health of a president, especially one who survived assassination attempts, I mean, it's just tasteless, isn't it? There's nothing funny about it. It's dangerous. It sends a signal that political violence is a punchline. And this is at a time when the country desperately needs to lower the temperature a bit. Walz has poured gasoline on the fire. But don't hold your breath waiting for Democrats, and especially Tim Walz, to walk this back. Don't hold your breath for Democrats to hold him accountable, because in their world, it's only dangerous rhetoric when conservatives speak. It's only dangerous rhetoric when Donald Trump is doing the speaking. When it's one of their own, suddenly it's all just a joke. It's just funny. Just laughing it off. No, nothing serious here. Don't be too serious here. Come election time, I got a feeling Tim Walz is going to learn that mocking Trump's health may have been the sickest political miscalculation of his career. I don't know what his political future holds, but I can't imagine Tim Walz ever being reelected as governor or ever being elected to anything in the future. America is in a health crisis, and by America, not just strangers across the country. It's personal. Me, you, friends, and family. And a major cause? Excess weight. Joey Hudson here. The solution isn't expensive shots like Ozempic. It's learning how to eat and think about food differently, and that's what PhD Weight Loss does. Their clients lose up to a third of their body weight, no drugs, just real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science to turn your body into a fat-burning machine. Sure, you could spend up to $20,000 a year on injections that burn muscle, not fat, and come with risks like pancreatitis or bowel blockages, only to gain it all back. PhD helps your body naturally produce weight loss hormones like GLP-1s. No shortcuts, just results that last. Already on Ozempic? Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team will help you safely transition off and keep losing weight. Let's make America healthy again. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. All right, this next topic is something that I think we should all be concerned about it. Every single American, and especially every single South Carolinian, should be concerned about their right to privacy and the right to vote securely and the right of the federal government to stay in its lane. Or maybe they are in their lane. So here's the story. This week, a South Carolina judge stepped in and hit the brakes on Washington's attempt to scoop up your personal voter information. It's all relates back to the U.S. Department of Justice, under President Trump's leadership, sent a letter on August the 6th demanding voter registration data from all 50 states. They wanted full names, addresses, driver's license numbers, and the last digits of your Social Security number. Now think about that for a second. Everything you need to steal someone's identity right there in one neat little package. And what did South Carolina do? Well, the Election Commission started pulling the data together, I would assume, with the idea that they were going to comply with the request. But then a voter from Calhoun County and Crook filed a lawsuit to stop it. This week, Circuit Judge Diane Goldstein sided with Ms. Crook, at least for now, saying that turning over this data could cause immediate and irreparable harm to voters' privacy. Now, this isn't just about one state, although, I'm speaking primarily about South Carolina because that's where I'm registered to vote. This is about whether, though, Washington can reach into state election offices, demand private data, and then do God knows what with it. South Carolina's Constitution guarantees the right to privacy. State law says certain voter information is confidential. And yet the DOJ claims federal law gives them the right to access it. I'm not too sure about that. What about you? Now remember, states are charged with carrying out elections. States are given that authority. So we set up our own systems. We decide which voting machines we use. We decide how you register to vote. Every state can be a little different. Now, I don't want to appear to be not uncooperative with the Trump administration, but honestly, I'm not quite sure what the federal government needs with my voter information. You see the problem? You got a federal government saying, okay, we need your data. You've got the state law saying, well, not so fast. Our Constitution protects our citizens' privacies. And you've got you and me, ordinary voters, stuck in the middle, worried that our personal information could end up hacked, leaked, or misused. Now, look, in all honesty, our state election commission could be hacked. But to me, passing that information on to another entity like the federal government, when I'm really not sure what the federal government is going to do with it, because we don't register to vote with the feds. We do that with the state. Now, Ann Crook, the woman who's suing, she used to run Orangeburg Calhoun Tech. She's not, or doesn't appear to be, some activist in a basement. She's a serious professional, and her concern is one that you and I share. Once this kind of data gets handed over, you can't take it back. And again, there's no clear authority of the federal government in requesting this information. Her lawyer is a state Democrat senator. He's the minority leader, Brad Hutto. So that kind of makes you a little suspect. But hey, maybe Mr. Hutto's protecting all of our privacy. He pointed out that just last month, a whistleblower revealed millions of Social Security numbers will put at risk of hacking inside a federal agency. If Washington can't even safeguard what it already has, why on earth should we hand over more data is the question they're asking. It's a valid question. Driver's license numbers, Social Security digits, addresses. Do you really trust D.C. bureaucrats to guard that like Fort Knox? I'm not too sure about it. Now, let's zoom out. Why does the DOJ want this information in the first place? They say it's to enforce federal voter registration laws. But here's the thing. Again, I get back to the fact that election law is primarily a state responsibility. Always has been. That's why we have 50 different sets of rules on registration, early voting, absentee ballots. Federal oversight? Sure, in narrow cases. But a nationwide demand for the personal data of every registered voter, I don't know. Is that oversight or overreach? And here in South Carolina, we worked hard to pass laws that strengthen election integrity. Voter ID is already required here in the Palmetto State. We've cleaned up voter rolls. We've taken steps to protect against fraud while still making it easy to vote. I'm not sure we need Washington barging in and demanding data that I'm not sure they have any business to holding. Let's put it in plain English. If South Carolina hands over this information, every voter in the state could be exposed. You might trust your local clerk. You might trust the election commission. But once your information is in the federal government's hands, it's fair game. You don't know who has access. You don't know what agency sees it. You don't even know what they're using it for. It could end up with contractors, researchers, political appointees with an agenda. And if the data leaks, good luck. Identity theft is one of the fastest growing crimes in America, and we are the ones who pay for it. So here's where things stand. Judge Goodstein's order is temporary. She's setting a hearing for September the 10th in Aiken to hear full arguments on whether to keep blocking the data transfer. Until then, the Election Commission says it will coordinate with the DOJ to explore lawful options. This is translated to mean they'll look for loopholes while the court decides. Attorney General Alan Wilson's office isn't stepping in, which means the Election Commission has to hire its own lawyers. That's unusual, and it signals just how politically sensitive this case actually is because, again, nobody wants to be interpreted as opposing the Trump administration. Friends, this is about more than one legal fight, though. This is about the balance between federal power and state sovereignty. This is about whether your right to privacy actually means anything. And this is about trust in government, trust in elections, trust in the system itself. Think about the irony. Democrats scream every day about election interference. They say they want to protect democracy, and yet here comes Washington demanding the most sensitive voter data in the country, and South Carolinians are supposed to just hand it over, I guess, without question. Again, I have my own doubts. I have my own questions. Bottom line here is South Carolina, I think, needs to ask some questions. Judge Goodstein was right to issue the injunction, and let's take a look at it. Let's take a closer look and determine whether or not this is something that we should be doing. Okay, folks, if you want proof that America is under attack, not just at the border, not just in our streets, but on the high seas, listen to this. Federal officials just intercepted what they're calling the largest bust ever of drug precursor chemicals headed straight from communist China to Sinaloa Cartel in Mexico. Now, let me be clear. These are not finished drugs, but the raw ingredients, the chemicals that make meth and fentanyl possible. U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro stood in Pasadena, Texas, surrounded by massive barrels seized from two different ships. In total, 1,300 barrels seized. That's 363,000 pounds of benzyl alcohol and another 334,000 pounds of methyl formaldehyde. For those of us who aren't chemists, let me put it simply. Those two chemicals put together could have produced 420,000 pounds of methamphetamine. What's the street value of that? About $569 million, according to authorities. And where was it headed? Right into the bloodstream of America. Now, that's war. That's another way of fighting America. Not with guns, not even destroying any property, but sending the ingredients to produce massive amounts of drugs to weaken the American people. Now, Pirro didn't mince words. She said tons of chemicals that are used to create synthetic drugs like methamphetamine and fentanyl are shipped from China to Mexico in China's undeclared war against America. Think about that. Our so-called strategic rival, the Chinese Communist Party, is actively enabling the flow of poison into our country, shipped by the ton, knowing full well the devastation that it causes. This isn't random. This isn't some accident of globalization. I think it's targeted. I think it's deliberate. And the middleman, the Sinaloa Cartel, one of the deadliest criminal organizations in the world, they cook the meth. They smuggle it north into North America, into the United States of America, and you and I pay the price that overdoses cost us, that crime cost us, that the broken families cost us, the lives. All of this costs society overall. And let's be clear, this seizure is historic. DEA and ICE officials say that by targeting precursor chemicals, not just the finished product, they're striking at the supply chain. Cut off the chemicals, you cut off the ability of cartels to manufacture the drugs in bulk and then ship them over the lines. ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons put it this way. He said, had these precursors made it to the destination, they would have made hundreds of thousands of pounds of methamphetamine with profits of over $500 million, which would lead to more American deaths. This wasn't just a shipment of poison. It was a war chest for the cartels, and stopping it, that saves American lives, period. Somebody's child's life was saved because that ship was intercepted. But here's the uncomfortable truth. This one bust is a victory. Yes, it is. But it's just a dent in an enormous problem, because for every ship we intercept, how many of them make it through? For every barrel that was seized, how many hundreds of barrels make it to their destination? Remember, fentanyl is measured in milligrams. A few grains of salt worth of fentanyl can kill you. Now multiply that by 420,000 pounds of meth chemicals, and you start to understand the scale of the carnage being planned. And it all is tied back to China. Year after year, shipments of fentanyl precursors, meth precursors, and synthetic opioids pour out of Chinese ports. Beijing looks the other way, and Americans bury our children. Now, let's talk about this. Let's talk about leadership. During his first term, President Donald Trump put unprecedented pressure on China for its role in the fentanyl crisis. He called them out publicly and repeatedly. He forced Beijing to acknowledge its role. He demanded crackdowns on chemical companies. Contrast that with the Biden years. Weak rhetoric, no accountability, and what happened? Fentanyl deaths skyrocketed. Communities from Ohio to Texas, from New Hampshire to California, were hollowed out by overdoses. And look, it was easy to get in because Joe Biden, he didn't have any borders. Our borders were wide open, so they could just walk this stuff in. They could cook it up in Mexico and bring it across the line without any danger of being caught. Now, in Donald Trump's second term, the administration is back to doing what should have been done all along, hitting China with the sanctions, naming names, freezing assets. The Treasury Department just sanctioned a chemical company, a Chinese chemical company, and two of its executives for funneling opioids and precursors into the United States. That's how you fight this war, by going after the supply lines and the profiteers behind them, the people who are making the most. And make no mistake, this is a two-front war. Front one, the cartels. They're militarized, heavily armed. They operate just across our southern border with impunity. And it's very clear. They profit off of American addiction. They profit off of illegal immigration. And they will not stop unless we stop them. They'll keep doing this. They'll keep bringing those death drugs over our border and into our cities, onto our streets. Make a lot of money at it, and harming, destroying a lot of people's lives. They don't care, though. The other, I said this is a two-front war. The other front, the Chinese Communist Party. They know exactly what they're doing as well. This is 21st century opium, a deliberate strategy to weaken the United States within. They ship the poison, the cartels distribute it, and we deal with the funerals and the weakness and the aftermath. And while Washington elites wring their hands about climate change or equity, Americans are dying in record numbers from overdoses. It's not an accident. It's a policy failure. And it's something that we have to take seriously. This is not some conspiracy theory. This is not just overhyping an issue. This is happening. And the Chinese know that it's happening. It's by design. The Chinese are putting a lot of effort into this because not only are they making a lot of money along the way, they're getting rich off of it, but at the same time, they're destroying America within our borders. And they don't even have to come into the United States. The Chinese are protected by oceans. Now think about what $569 million in drug profits would mean for the cartels. They can buy more guns. They can outfit more soldiers, more corruption, more power. That money just stays in Mexico. It buys influence. It buys Mexican politicians. It buys safe houses and secures smuggling routes all across the Western Hemisphere. And where does it start? Get back to China, at a port in Shanghai. If China wanted to stop this, they could. They could regulate their chemical industry. They could monitor their exports. They could cooperate fully with U.S. authorities. But they don't, because, as Judge Pirro says, this is an undeclared war. And it is a war. And China, right now, sadly, is winning it. So here's the bottom line. This bust is a win, yes. And I'm glad that it's receiving a lot of attention because Americans need to know that this is happening. and they need to know what's happening and what the solution is. But it should also, this win should be a wake-up call. China's not just a competitor. It's an adversary that is poisoning our people. The cartels are not just drug gangs. They're terrorist organizations waging war on our communities. And until America treats them that way, with the full weight of our military, diplomatic, and economic power, this crisis is going to continue, and it's only going to grow. Janine Pirro said it best. This was the largest bust of precursor chemicals in history, but the sad truth is, unless we change course, there's going to be more shipments, more chemicals, more poison, more deaths, more destruction, more families destroyed. The Trump administration understands this. That's why they're sanctioning Chinese companies. That's why they're hitting the cartels where it hurts. And that's why, if we stay the course, maybe, just maybe, we turn the tide in this deadly war. We make some headway. Because make no mistake, it is a war, and we like to win wars. Wars are meant to be won. And the United States of America is the best at winning wars than any nation on this earth. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. As we wrap up another day, hey, I want to talk about an issue that we talk about on this program quite a bit. Government overreach, about big tech spying on you, about the loss of privacy in America, just Big Brother in general. But here's a story that hits a little closer to home, literally. Imagine walking out into your yard, looking up at that tree that you've loved for years, that big oak tree, and finding out that some insurance company sent a drone flying over your house to spy on you, and then threatened to cancel your coverage unless you coughed up over $1,000 to cut some branches out of that tree because they don't like it, the fact that it has grown and is extending over the roof of your home. Now, that's exactly what happened to Lynn Schuler up in Massachusetts. She had been with the same insurer for 12 years, no claims, no late payments, a loyal customer, and then one day she gets an email with an aerial photo of her property. Not a phone call from someone, not a knock on the door, just, you've got 6 weeks to cut those branches hanging over your roof or we'll drop you. We have this photo that we took with our drone that shows that they're extending out over your roof too far. And you know what? It cost her $1,200 to take those limbs down. She had no choice because if she lost the coverage, her mortgage would be in jeopardy. And, of course, her home would be in jeopardy. Her words, it was very invasive. They took a picture of my house without me knowing, which is crazy. Crazy? Yes. Invasive? Probably. But also a glimpse into what's becoming standard operating procedure in the insurance industry. Now, this isn't some isolated incident. Consumer advocates say that insurers across the country are increasingly using drones and satellite imagery to snoop on your property. They can use a satellite to measure your roof, to measure the square footage of your home. And they're not just looking for tree branches. They're scanning for mold spots on your roof, damaged shingles, debris in your yard. One woman in California, insured for nearly 40 years, got dropped after a drone caught hazardous renovation clutter. Another man down in Florida said he was flagged for roof damage based on old satellite photos that looked like they were taken during World War II. The kicker? His insurer was located 3 miles from his house and refused to even send someone out in person to double check after he objected to their claims. Think about that. Loyal customers, decades without a claim, dropped overnight because some algorithm in the sky decided their homes were too risky. Now, the companies will tell you that this is less intrusive than actually sending an adjuster or someone out to knock on your door and to take your time and to walk around your home and to climb up on your roof to take photos. That's their line. But let's be real. At least when a human adjuster comes out or an inspector, you get to meet them face to face. You can point out the repairs you've done. You can have a conversation. You can ask your questions and find out some of the leeway that he or she's going to give you. When it's a drone, you get no voice, no chance to explain, no context, just a blurry aerial shot and a cancellation notice or a letter demanding some action. It's faceless, it's cold, and it's the kind of thing that makes Americans feel like their own homes aren't really theirs anymore. Now, the good news is some lawmakers are pushing back. In Massachusetts, State Representative David LaBeouf has introduced legislation would at least require insurers to give homeowners copies of the photos and a chance to dispute them. In California, Assemblywoman Lisa Calderon is pushing a similar bill, warning that families are facing non-renewals without justification. But let's be honest. These are baby steps, and maybe they're not even the right steps, because I guess insurance companies have the right to either insure your home or not insure your home, and you have to live up to their expectations, their standards. I mean, the argument can be made that at minimum, consumers should have the right to see the evidence, to correct errors, and to fix minor problems without being treated like criminals. But at the same time, the insurance companies, they don't have to insure you either. Because here's the bigger issue. This is happening at the same time that insurance premiums are skyrocketing nationwide. Families are paying more for less coverage, and now they're being spied on from above, or that's at least how some people feel. It's a recipe for mistrust for an industry that people haven't always trusted anyway. So ask yourself, how many of us have a tree branch over their roof? How many of us have kids' toys in the yard? Maybe an old shed that needs a little paint. Under this system, all it takes is one drone photo and boom, you're labeled high risk and your policy could be gone. And remember, you can't just shrug it off. Most mortgages require insurance. If you lose coverage, you could be in default. That means the banks could get involved. You're trapped. This isn't necessarily about safety. It isn't necessarily just about managing risk. It's about squeezing ordinary Americans, putting pressure on them to do things that maybe aren't absolutely necessary. You know what it really shows? That same trend that we see in government, the same trend we see in big tech and corporate America. Automation replacing accountability and common sense in some cases. That human interaction. Instead of working with people, companies are outsourcing decisions to drones, satellites, and software. Instead of customer service, you get surveillance. Instead of common sense, you get a computer program with no context. It's the same mentality behind red flag laws, ESG credit scores, and the IRS hiring armies of auditors. It's a culture of control, whether you're monitored constantly, judged silently, and punished without any warning. And it's turning homeowners into suspects in their own homes. Have you ever had an incident like this? Maybe where your homeowner insurance carrier has sent you a note saying that they've taken a photo from a drone and asked you to do something, make some type of correction? It's a little frustrating. And it's a little frustrating not to be able to actually deal with somebody. Again, somebody that you can ask questions of. But again, I get back to, is this really something that insurance companies should be held accountable for? Or they're just operating under their insurability guidelines? And look, they don't have to write your coverage. Nothing says that they have to. And they're in business to make a buck. They got to make a profit. So here's the bottom line, I think. Lynn Schuler's story isn't just about a tree branch necessarily. It's about a system where hardworking Americans, loyal customers, are sometimes treated like numbers in a database. It's about privacy being trampled in the name of efficiency. It's about a country where even your own backyard isn't safe from corporate surveillance. And this is what this is. Lynn paid the $1,200. She kept her insurance. She'll never look at her home the same way again, and neither should we. Because if insurers can use drones to police your property today, what's next? What happens when your bank, your city government, or even the IRS decides that they can do the same? They can fly a drone over your home, over your backyard to spy on you, to see what you're up to. It's time for us to draw a line somewhere. We have to separate modern technology with reality of where we live today, and what people can stomach, what we can actually go along with. If a company is going to spy on you, they should at least have to share the evidence and give you a chance to fix it. If an insurance carrier sees, like in the case here, a limb that needs to be cut, give you the opportunity to cut it, to make it right. America was built on the idea that a man's home is his castle, not his surveillance zone. And there has to be a fine line there between privacy and the insurance company protecting their interest as well. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.